Welcome everyone to the Mompreneurs Business Advice, Tips, and Tools. I am Michelle Glogovac, your moderator. I am the founder and CEO of the MSL Collective. Oh, we've got one more, hold on. Which is a public relations agency, and I'm also the host of the My Simplified Life podcast. I have two tiny humans who are 5 and 6, and I have two adult stepkids who are 19 and 22? They're old. So I will introduce everybody quickly, and then we're going to get right into it. We have Erin Taylor, who is a PCI certified parent coach, motivational speaker, host of the Powerful Parenting for Today's Kids podcast, author, and a mother of 4. Erin founded Revolutionizing Life, a company and online school dedicated to supporting therapists, coaches, and other professionals trying to make a difference in the world, as well as parents and children. Erin was able to take the tragedy of the death of her infant daughter and turn it around, using her hard-earned wisdom to help people from all walks of life step into their power and live their best lives. Welcome, Erin. We have Andrea Szyminski, who has her JD, PHR, and is the CEO and founder of People First Consulting, LLC, a firm that works with startups to navigate the complex web of employment laws to create company policies and HR practices that put people first while also reducing compliance risk. Andrea is also the creator and host of Hindsight's 2020, a podcast that gives voice to the stories and lessons learned during 2020. The podcast aims to turn pain into purpose by destigmatizing the shame and isolation that comes with adversity and hardship, helping those who experience it in whatever form it may take feel seen, heard, and accepted. To build a community where we can unclench our jaws, let our guard down for just a little while, and maybe even have a laugh or two, because hindsight's 2020. Welcome to Alicia Brown, a victim, survivor, leader, or visionary. At times, we all need to be inspired. Alicia Brown, the joy guru, I like it, so much positivity, is an award-winning entrepreneur, best-selling author, international editor and publisher, and transformational speaker who encourages audiences by igniting the fire within and helping them take center stage. As a childhood abuse survivor, she is on a mission to reverse the damage of abuse by encouraging survivors to write and publish their story in order to pay it forward and create a circle of healing. Next, we have Mary Clavier, the founder of the Transitions Collective, a platform resource for women and families. Mary specializes in building comprehensive business strategies and teaching entrepreneurs how to work more effectively in their businesses using the Herman Brain Dominance Instrument. In 2017, Mary founded Brief Transitions, the first to market mesh underwear for women after childbirth and surgeries. Mary co-hosts the Fearless Business podcast and has been featured in media outlets including Forbes, Business Insider, NPR, Authority Magazine, Thrive Global, and NBC News. There's a lot of podcasters. Next, we have Dr. Nicole Johnson, an award-winning family physician turned mindset expert and success coach. She had tremendous success in her medical career, but after giving birth to her now 19-month-old son, she decided she wanted to have a more profound impact in the world. She is passionate about business and entrepreneurship. She loves nothing more than seeing a woman take her passion and turn it into a thriving business that she loves and provides for her world. Dr. Johnson uses her own style and techniques to fuse her business acumen with her cultivated mindset and success coaching skills to help women align with their whole self to achieve their greatest business and life success. Next, we have Steffi Stoja. I'm butchering it already. Stojano.
Stoyano. But it's okay.
Stoyano. Sorry.
Yeah. You're doing very well.
Steffi is the founder of digital media company focused on mothers and their needs, mommy.bg. She and her team spark conversations about mothers' well-being, mental health, sexual health, and the changing experience of motherhood in her native Bulgaria. Steffi has over 10 years of marketing experience in retail, FMCG, and blockchain. But today, what excites her most is telling the stories of inspiring mothers and changing the image of motherhood. She's a proud mom of a 1.5-year-old boy named Alex. And Karen, I didn't have your bio. Can you take a moment to please introduce yourself You're on mute.
Sorry about that. Hi, my name's Karen Yankovic, and I am also a podcast host. My podcast is called Good Girls Get Rich, and what I do is I help women really establish a strong personal brand and really kind of shine a light on what they do and what they do best. I do that primarily using LinkedIn, helping them really establish a strong presence and build some confidence around doing what they do best, so that they can build a life a life with lots of abundance in it.
I love that. So let's kick off our panel by talking about the title of our panel, Mompreneurs. And we discussed this last week. It's not a word that any of us here are fond of because it simply calls out that we're moms who are entrepreneurs, but you don't hear dadpreneurs. So does anyone want to dive into this with me some more? Because I think it does take us behind instead of going forward. It's like saying chicks and, I'm a girl this. For being in PR, the hashtag PR girl problems is popular. And I am a girl, but I'm a woman and I don't need to be called out for being what I am because I'm just simply good at what I do. Does anybody want to jump in on that one?
I mean, I'm unmuted. I'm happy to get the ball rolling. I can tell you one of the reasons that I'm so passionate about supporting women is because of things like that. Because there's so much kind of like global energy around, words like that. And I just heard a statistic recently and I knew it was coming. There was a study done, I guess there's studies done all the time on the gender wage gap, right? And a year ago, the study was that in 99 years, as things were moving forward, the gender wage gap would be even, right? If things kept going the way they went. 99 years, which is crazy to begin with. 1 year later, with the pandemic, it's 136 years. Another entire generation of women are now not going to be making the same as their male counterparts because of things like words like mompreneurs, right? It's expected that dads have to work and the door has to get closed, but somehow everybody has to get fed and get to school. And I am not bashing men. I'm not at all. I just think that we as women, if we want to be on the right side of that statistic, we have to understand that that things like that exist and that we can affect change just for ourselves, right? Not, obviously it's great if we can help the world as well. And it seems like there's lots of women here that are doing that. But I just heard that like last week and I kind of knew it was coming.
Yeah, I completely agree. My former life is in aviation and there is a woman who goes by the name Chick in the Cockpit. And I'm like, just stop. It perpetuates women in aviation to be stigmatized like that, to be hit on, you can call me a chick. No, you cannot. Just like I don't want you to call me a boss babe, because to me, it takes away the seriousness of whatever it is that we're trying to achieve.
Yep.
So I can jump in with a little thing. Have you noticed that every time someone uses the word mompreneur, a question pops in, like, how do you do with work-life balance? Like, why no one is asking the dads about that? Like, if you're a mom starting your own business, everyone is like eager to understand how you take care of your child. But then if a dad says, hey, I'm having a new family. I have a young boy, for example, in our case, and I just started my own business. Everyone's like, oh yeah, that's great. Such a good idea. But if you're a woman and then you say, I'm a mompreneur or I'm starting a business and I'm a mother, everyone's like, so who's taking care of your child? Like, how do you do it? Like, I don't know. Have you noticed that?
Yeah, 100%. One of my friends just started a company and she actually is launching a product. And as she's talking to investors, she's been so surprised that one of their questions is so personal. Do you have kids? And then also, are you ready to miss out on a lot of stuff to do this? And we had like a pacing call and she was just like really taken aback. But it kept happening and happening. And so now she's just figured out her talking points around it. And, it does seem like something extra that we have to address.
I think for me is that it makes the whole idea of being an entrepreneur just not serious. It's a part-time hustle gig. And that's not what entrepreneurship is to me. I mean, this is about passion. This is about bringing your skills and your talents into the world to help other people and bring value into this world. And so when you start doing the mompreneurs and all of that, to me, it just kind of devalues you and what you're bringing into this world. And I get that it's cute because it's kind of like, doing your little combo names with celebrity couples. It's catchy. But to introduce yourself, it to me feels like you're just saying, hey, I'm a mom and an entrepreneur, kind of. That's been my take on it. So you're a mom and an entrepreneur, period.
It reminds me of MLMs.
Yes.
To put it that way.
Yeah.
For me, it reminds me of what the narrative is that as female entrepreneurs, we always have to be mindful of, because when you use labels like that, when you use languaging like that, it just conveys what the preconception is. You look at all these years later, when we compare ourselves to our moms and grandmothers, we try to feel like we're a little bit more evolved than they are, but it's still the stigma's there that now it's a mompreneur. So you're a mom and an entrepreneur, but like you said, no one says they'repreneur. So for me, I think it's more mindful of what are we conveying to the next generation later? What were we telling in our examples as entrepreneurs? What are we conveying to the generations that come after us as to what the expectation is? What are the options that they can truly have? At the same time, understanding what are the preconceived notions, because unfortunately, even in this age, you're still dealing with, let's say if you're in the corporate world, sometimes going for promotions. I've had friends who have said, well, they told me they didn't know if I was the right person because my son is this age and, you're not going to be able to get this time off of work. And I'm going, from someone that had an HR background, whoa, there are major legal violations and you're coming out so boldly and saying these things. But that shows you how comfortable the environment is. So it's people at that time making those things, or even the languaging, the implications there in what they're really saying and how it affects women, sometimes even when you're the one that's the owner of the business. So as business women, as entrepreneurs, we have to be even more mindful. What are we conveying in our culture for our companies that we're in charge of? And in the things we're doing and the decisions we're making as entrepreneurs, as business women, what are we saying to the next generation? Are we making sure our languaging, our presentation, and are we having these conversations with the women that fall after us, to be very clear on what we're modeling before them? Because sometimes a simple phrase like that, we're just carrying on those same biases and giving them strength when we really should not be.
I think that actually ties in very well with just how are we running our businesses, and the fact that we get asked about balance, for example, and really, the opposite of that, a lot of what comes up with the entrepreneurship world is around the hustle culture. So it's like, how are we kind of navigating both those names and those stereotypes in a way, but also saying, hey, like, we also don't want to go so much this other direction that you have to be hustling, or, that you can't get capital, for example, without, giving up on your family life or something. It all kind of, in my mind, seems simple with like just a name or a tagline, but it goes so deep into so many other areas that we've started to touch on, because it's really a shift with how we're working overall.
And I thought of that word mompreneur when we were having our chat last week, and I realized that I've never actually thought of or referred to myself as a mompreneur. I've thought of myself as a coach. I've thought of myself as a business owner, as a mother, as a woman. I've thought of all those things, but that word just has never really resonated with me. And I think it's because of all the things that you guys have already brought up, that it's kind of singling us out when we're just business owners who happen to be moms and women at the same time.
I think that dovetails really nicely into, the language we use. Also, I think flows to our confidence. I'm new to opening my business, and it's scary. And finding that confidence can be hard at times. And so very nuanced things like language matter and can chip away at you slowly. So, I kind of love that we're taking it back, rejecting it for our panel name, because it's hard enough out there to.
I think you just segued perfectly into why did we all start our businesses? In our talk last week, we all discussed how a good chunk of us launched a business of our own after becoming moms because the corporate world simply did not work anymore for us. I talked about I had a female boss that I thought would completely understand what being a first-time mom was about. And I was so wrong. I couldn't have been more wrong. And I knew that I needed to do something more. I wanted to do something more. Who wants to share their experience about how you've had that tug and that knowing of there's more for me out there. And now that I'm a mom, I have to go do it.
I can share my experience, which is a little bit different. Before entrepreneurship, I worked in corporate all my life, and I have the added part of what they would say is a double minority because I'm Black and I'm a woman. So I've been there. And to be honest, I was always more comfortable working with men. Always more comfortable working with men. I love those environments. Nothing against women, just love working with men. So I found myself as an executive. And, one of my things has always been in the giving back and sharing my testimony of surviving child abuse and really trying to help people understand that you get choices. You can control your life. We don't have to be defined by trauma or any events that happen to us. You can be in control of the life you want now. And I wrote a book and start sharing that. And then all these doors open, being a contributing writer on staffs for magazines, podcaster, all of these things. And I just was sitting at the desk one day and it was just like this wave came over me and I'm looking around. I'm feeling so out of place. And I had to have that moment with myself where I'm like, it's not everybody else, it's just you. And what was so comfortable, I was a diehard, educated. You work your 30 years until you retire, and then you get to really live, but you get that pension check. And I was raised with those values. And I just sat there and go, I'm made to do more than this. And I always say, I never want to be an entrepreneur. Those people are crazy. You don't know, you will not have a steady paycheck and you're just out here working your passion, whatever. You need benefits and you need a check every 2 weeks or twice a month or whatever the pay cycle is. And those people are nuts. And then I came to the grip, you know what? We are nuts. But there is something about being a woman and living life on your terms and saying, this is what I'm worth and I will take no less. Matter of fact, I'm going to raise that worth a little bit higher. And was it scary? Absolutely. Especially when we're all conditioned a certain way. But I just knew that I knew. I cannot sit here and spend the rest of my time and the rest of my life doing what everybody else expects me to do, but I'm just not happy. And I had more flexibility. I had more control. It's like I laugh and joke. I say, this would be the retirement job. If you want to just cruise and put your feet up and, come and go as you please, have a company car, you're good. You're in the position where they're not even going to fire you. You can just ride this thing out. That became so repulsive to me. So I was like, I have to take back control of my life in a far bigger way and start my business. But I want to say this, just as an aside. A couple months after I started, I left, feeling so empowered and wonderful, actually a month after. My nonprofit founder had emergency heart surgery. My mother was facing a breast cancer scare. And I was so excited because I said, I don't have to go into the office and get time off or request time off. I can just go. And then 3 months after that, I was diagnosed with a chronic illness and had to shut down my business for the better part of a year. And now going on 6 years later, I will tell you, it's a decision I never regret because I realized, regardless of how things were in that time, what if you had spent this time still in your job And if this was the end, if this was the end of life as you knew it, being able to have your full capabilities and navigate your time, you would have spent those last moments at someone's job versus being free and doing what you wanted to do. So we all don't know what our last days are. We don't know how much time we have on this earth. So although it might be fearful, there's going to be some scary moments. You have to really understand the power of you and take a risk on yourself. If I'm going to bet on the odds, I'm going to bet on me every day of the week versus somebody else's perceived notion or what I can do. So that's what I would say for anyone listening. It is scary. And finding different people, and the more you level up and grow, different concerns that you never saw coming. Success is scary. Being poor is scary. Being rich can be scary. Which scary or fear do you want to buy into? And that sacrifice and work for that one. I'd rather have the fear of life on my own terms than the fear of being mediocre and knowing I could do so much better, but just never taking the risk and never taking the chance. Those are the things that people regret on their deathbed.
I think that's so
I'm going to
inspiring.
bet on you too.
Yes.
Thank you.
I had a different kind of perspective, although I felt that too. Like I felt those times in corporate where I was like, is this all there is? Like, is this what it's going to be? And the thought of that was just not working for me. But after 2 girls, and after I had my second, the position that I was in, I was working in operational excellence, required me to travel to all of our manufacturing sites. And I had traveled in the past and it was fine, but travel was picking up more. And my boss did not have children and didn't understand, I think, the impact of that for being home from being away from home all the time. So right before I left, I was gone 2 to 3 weeks of the month, every month. And it was just like, pack my bag, Sunday night, leave Sunday night, Monday, come back Thursday night or Friday and do it all again the next week, and it's just that kind of lifestyle for me at the time, especially being a mom and trying to, juggle all the things. It's not sustainable. It became like a values, conflict. And I just had to say, hey, I'm not willing to do this anymore. I'm not willing to have this type of schedule. It's not what I had happened to sign up for. It just kind of evolved over time. And I said, okay, my life is changing now and I can't, I don't want to be in that kind of situation. So I personally think, there's a lot of different things, but some parts of corporate America are really not set up, and not even just for the moms, also not set up for just parents in general. The school schedule versus the corporate working structure, things have changed now with COVID, but still it's been worse in COVID if you're dealing with virtual school, but all of that together, it's not very supportive of having households that might have to have, two working parents, for example. And I just found a lot of that through what I was doing in corporate, that I said, okay, this has to change. And what am I willing to do or not willing to do anymore? And then had to take the steps to make that change. But I personally think that that's a big part of it too. Like, how does it line up with what you want for your life and what you're doing with your life? And especially being a mom, becoming a mom, there's a big pivotal moment just in that with your purpose and what am I doing? And now I'm raising this human and all of that stuff. And it really makes you reflect in different ways.
Totally.
I can also jump in.
Oh, yeah.
I so much resonate with what you're saying because, first of all, I'm a workaholic. I love working. For me, work, that's my, the way I've been brought up. Work is a good thing. I really, really love working. And fortunately enough, I had jobs which I kind of really love and they challenged me. And so when I went into maternity leave, I'm not going to mention how long is that in Bulgaria. It's 1 year paid maternity leave. But when I went into maternity leave for the first time in my life, I had to not work. And that was killing me. That was literally the worst experience for me and my interpretation of a depression, honestly, because I knew I had this amazing human being. I'm feeding my baby boy. I must have been the happiest person in the world. But at the same time, I'm so frustrated that my brain is not working, that I'm not doing anything, work related, or I'm not reading enough, or I'm not educating myself enough, that I'm in my own eyes, I'm like in standstill, like nothing is happening in me. And at the same time, even though we live in different countries in Europe with my husband, we decided to come back home in Bulgaria and give birth to our son here because my family is here and they will help me, and COVID came. So at that point, I also came across the stereotype of the mother in my own country. Like, I was reading literature from the US, from UK, and at the same time, I was bumped with this image of the mother, of what she's supposed to do, what she's not supposed to do, that didn't resonate with me. Like, I felt there was so much information out in the world that should be shared. And I was telling my husband every day, this is ridiculous. Why no one is talking about this? Like, why no one is talking about that? And at one point, he was just like, looked at me and said, well, then you talk about it. Like, go on and do it on your own. So literally around a month before I went back to work, we hired a nanny. And then that was the moment I finally found time, to launch my website, to launch the social media, to put the digital company out. And then I had to go back to work. And it was so frustrating. I was really happy to see my team, to see everyone. We are working with extremely exciting teams in the blockchain space. So everything is new, everything is super exciting. No one is doing this like us. And at one point, I caught myself that I was so sad about the different things, like the impact I'm doing in the mommy space. And I saw that I cannot, first of all, work on the same level as I worked before. I work day and night because I loved it, but now I cannot. I have sleepless nights. I go to work. I feel stupid after 1 year of not working in the field. I felt literally so stupid. I don't know if you've had that experience, but I was just looking at my colleagues and thinking, oh my God, I cannot follow their thought. They speak so fast. I just really need them to slow down to understand what they're saying to me. And that was a pivotal moment for me, that I understood that I really don't enjoy this job anymore, even though it's amazing, it's fantastic, I love my team, but I see on the other side that I'm doing an impact, that I'm creating a movement, that people are starting to talk, they're reaching out to me and saying, hey, we really needed someone to start talking, that the image is changing, that there is a new generation of mothers in Bulgaria who are not like the ones that were before us, that we are so interested in other things. We can take decisions for our bodies. We're interested in relationships. We want to talk about sex and vibrators and, cool stuff like that. And no one is talking about that experience for mothers, And at one point, I had a really tough time, and I went with my boss to the park and said to him, like, I really need some time off to focus on my thing, because I think that's the thing I want to move forward with. And he was really understanding. So he said, I can see that you're passionate and that all day long at work you talk about this new article. Have you guys read it? It's so interesting. And no one cares because no one else apart from his mom. So that was the pivotal moment for me when I realized, I cannot work in the same way I did before. I cannot work day and night. I have other priorities. And I need time to go back home and have my fresh mind and work and play with my kids. I just need that time, and I need to be fresh and not frustrated from work. So that was the key moment for myself, and I had to stop and say, okay, so now we go. We go full steam in that direction. And I am really happy about that. It's a great experience. And I wake up every morning saying, like, we're going to change the narrative today again with some other cool articles and topics. And it's really, really the best decision ever. So.
I kind of come at this with a little bit of a different perspective than you guys, because I'm a little ahead of you. I have 4 kids and they're all grown and they're starting to have kids. So when my kids were young, I was in corporate, and I give you all a lot of credit for making the decision earlier, because I didn't. And I made the decision that I wanted to be available for my kids when they had kids, because I just didn't have that. I didn't feel like I had that choice when they were younger. So that's
woman.
Yeah. So that's what I did. And Steffi, it's interesting. I'm actually starting to see that come to fruition now because I have a couple grandkids, which is great. And my daughter has a 2-month-old baby. And here in the US, right, the baby was born 7 weeks premature. So he's great, but he was in the NICU for like 4.5 weeks, 5 weeks. And she had to go back at 8 weeks. So she had like 2 or 3 weeks home with him. So I'm so glad that I made this decision to be able to recreate my career, to be able to be there to help my kids, because I don't know how she's doing it. I mean, my other kids are dealing with COVID and the kids are in school and not in school and they're babies still, but, with daycare and they're working from home. And, who knew that this was all going to happen when I made that choice? But it's an interesting thing to kind of be watching it happen now, right? Because it's not that I just chose this 2 years ago, right? It was 10 years ago that I said, I need to start to ease out of corporate. My kids are, in college and out of college, and I want more flexibility. I want to be able to be there for them as they build their lives. And, so that's what I did. And honestly, it's fun to be watching it. Like I was at my daughter's today and I was, walking my grandson, and I was on the phone with, he's 2 months old. So he's really need a whole lot of my attention. He was sleeping. And, it was kind of interesting and I say this because I want everybody listening to hear that you can do this. You can create this, right? Like I created this, and and it's not like I'm not working when I'm there. It's just that the work that I do there is different than the work that I do on the days that I'm not there, right? It's like my backstage days. It's where I talk to people on my team. And, I had a really long conversation with, just some different people in my business. So I kind of wish I knew then what I know now. And, and truthfully too, we have more opportunity now to build our own businesses than maybe 20, 30 years ago because of the internet, because of social media, because we have the same playing field, right? As people that have $1 million budgets for social media, we can create campaigns that get us in front of them if that's what works, if that's what we're looking to do, right? So that's kind of the biggest reason. I've had entrepreneurial jobs on and off over the many years of my careers, but I guess the funniest part was when I left, I thought, okay, now I'm going to be, I'll be working from home full time. I'll do yoga. I'll take walks. And now, barely showered at 8 o'clock at night sometimes, because you just sit down to start at work early, but it's done on my time, right? It's done on my time. I can work on a Saturday if I want to take off a Tuesday, right? So that's that was kind of the whys behind how I built my business. And I think that I'm grateful that I had the opportunities that I have to be able to do it.
Isn't it funny how we all sort of evolve? And that's a good thing. I was 9 years ago, I was work crazy in startup world, and I was burnt out and I didn't know how to get out of it. I doing something like this just never occurred to me. And so I was diagnosed with breast cancer instead. That's what life handed up to me. And like life changes, you evolve, you change, you go through an experience that opens you up in a different way. So for me to become a parent, to become a mom after experiencing cancer was like amazing. When I took a leave of absence to go through treatment, I remember saying to my husband, I'm officially retiring. Like, this is my retirement ticket. I am done. And if we're blessed enough to have kids after this, I definitely want to stay home and be a stay-at-home mom. And I did that for many years, 4 or 5 years. And I surprised myself. I evolved and I was ready to get back in. I was ready to use my brain again. And so I told myself, okay, I'm just going to go work for a medium-sized tech company, just work on the HR team, sort of punch the clock 9 to 5, come back, live my life, be with my kids, and have, sort of an easy life. And it was the worst 2 years of my life. It was terrible. I hated every second of it. I had some, bad bosses who unfortunately were women as well. And some just bad experiences where I was like, enough is enough. I'm better than this. And I took another path, and I'm so happy I did. And I think somebody else said this, I bet on me. I I can do this. I invested in me and I am so much happier, and also probably a workaholic, but it's something I'm passionate about. So it's fun work. It's great. Anyways, I just think that we should, to anybody listening, you're going to go through phases. Life is going to change and twist and turn and deviate. And I still have 2 very small kids. I have a 6-year-old and a 4.5-year-old. So I incorporated my consulting business in March of 2020, and I shut it down 2 weeks later in March of 2020. And, I'm just getting back up, and it's really nice to find my unicorn space and be back at it.
I absolutely love that, because I talk about that all the time about myself. I started off as an entrepreneur and then went into research and then had this call to go into medicine. And through that had all these life experiences of divorce and illness and whatnot. And every single one of you one of those experiences causes you to change and kind of question, what am I wanting? Right. And you either answer it honestly and you evolve and you move forward, or you keep trying to convince yourself to fit in that old box. And I know for me personally, my kind of wake up moment was what I call the push-pull. I had a female boss who basically had a come to Jesus moment of, how are you going to handle this with, a new baby? How are you going to do this all in a clinic? Where are you going to be able to breastfeed and pump? And they weren't really going to support that. And I got off the phone and was, F this and blah, blah, blah. And, I'm calling HR, but I knew the HR in that organization wasn't the most helpful. And I finally could just feel myself going, I've been fighting this for a long time. And then it was a few months later that I had my baby boy, and just this massive shift inside of me happened. And I just felt myself saying, you've been thinking too small. And you really wanted to do this other thing, and you really want to help people in a different way. And you don't want to be fighting organizations. You want to be helping women build them. And so that was one of those things where it's just, passion started flowing through me, and I'm eager to get up in the morning, and I just been like, okay, let's do this. And for me, that's where I knew, like, I've hit it. This is it. This is the next step, until something else calls me. So I love the evolution part. And I think more of us need to talk about that and say it's okay. Because I felt a lot of guilt. Like, I put all these years in, I should be doing this forever, but I had to come to terms with, okay, there are so many other ways that we can help each other and ourselves too.
I do think it's interesting, the mean woman boss, because I think because of those experiences, I am like so much more empowered. I want to help other women as a result. Like, this needs to stop. So I do think it's funny that those of us who've had those experiences, like, just lean into it completely to make that go away.
Erin, I saw you come off mute. Did you want to add to that?
Yes, I was actually just going to say that my story to get to being a business owner was vastly different from all of the rest of you wonderful women. When I was growing up, my parents I was very, very lucky. They always told me I could do whatever I wanted to do, and I was capable, and they believed in me, and they gave me such powerful messages. And so I knew from an early age, around 11 years old, that I wanted to help other kids. I wanted to help families, because I knew that other kids didn't have the same experiences growing up that I was having. And so I spent 20 years working as a therapist, and I was primarily supposed to work with the children. But I quickly realized that the most impact I could have was working with their parents. And so I tried to do that as creatively as I could to make the biggest impact possible. And after 20 years, I just couldn't do it anymore. I just realized that I need to I need to kind of change what I'm doing, change how I'm doing it. And so I went back and got certified as a parent coach. And then I really had no choice to open my own business because I worked for an agency as a therapist, but there's no agency for parent coaches. So I kind of stumbled into this because of what I wanted to do in my career. And I remember feeling a bit shell-shocked because I did not have an entrepreneurial background. And when I was nearing graduation from my program, I thought, oh, great. In a month, I'm going to be certified. I'm going to graduate, and then I'll get to work with families. And then suddenly it dawned on me, but where are these families coming from? And how am I going to work with them? I don't understand. So I kind of went through this panic mode for a little while I was trying to figure out, oh my gosh, I just decided to open my own business. What in the world was I thinking? How am I going to do this? And so it was a steep learning curve, but that's how I came to be doing what I do. And I love it. And I wouldn't have it any other way now that I've been doing it for about 7 or 8 years. And I do love the flexibility. My mother-in-law called and asked if I could take her a couple months ago to get her first COVID vaccination because it was the big mega site and she didn't want to navigate it on her own. And it was 10 o'clock in the morning on a Monday. And I just said, sure. I just rearranged what I had to do that day. And that kind of flexibility is just priceless. And to be a mom and to have that kind of flexibility, oh goodness, because there's always things that come up with our kids, whether it's a doctor's appointment or a school function or they're home doing remote schooling. Somebody's got to help them. So I just think that we as women and mothers and business owners, I'm avoiding mompreneur, but I just think that we kind of have the best of all the worlds because we get a little bit of all of it. And I just think we're really lucky.
Can I pop in a question? Who is your biggest, I won't say negative commentator, but who is the one who said, it's not going to happen? Or in my case, because I'm coming from a tech world, I was working in blockchain, which was considered and still is considered forefront of technology, like one of the things that the future will include. So when I said I'm leaving the company and I'm starting my own digital company focused on mothers, and the reaction I got on the other side was, mothers, really? You're doing something for mothers? I hope you're not giving up on blockchain, just keep it as a side hustle. So in the first conversation, and it was with women in technologies and women groups I was part of and associations I was part of. And when I said, every time I mentioned this, every time I got the same reaction, just another digital company for mothers, another product for mothers. What is wrong with you mothers? Like, why someone has to create something for mothers? And this coming from mothers, and for me, that was a huge shock in the first few months. So it took me some time to gear up, and to come back and be like, yeah, for mothers. And it's awesome, actually. And it's actually very successful. But it was a shock. And that was my first, punch in the face after starting my own business. So it will be really interesting for me to see who was your first punch in the face.
It wasn't who I thought it would be, but even then and now I can look back on it and it's still a joke to me. It was like the biggest laugh. It was actually one of the executives in our office at the time. And so when he heard I resigned and everything, he came in and, we were talking or whatever. And all I remember is him saying something about, well, a lot of people would like to do entrepreneurship or have different, dreams and passions. But there's that thing, called the starving artist. I just sat there. I guess maybe it was shock because otherwise I would just laugh in his face, but I didn't. So I'm just going, well, yeah, but you know what? At this stage now, if that's the case, I can easily replace this job. So I think it's better time than ever to leave and at least do what is already making me money. And it's like the way, he looked at me, I guess he wasn't prepared for my answer. So he just turned and he left. And it's still the funniest thing to me, because it's like, we have, again, sometimes this fear that keeps us bound in things. And, well, what if this doesn't work? And what if that doesn't work? But then it's like, if you really make an analysis, where are you losing, really? You can find another job. And most of the times when you're leaving one, you have, your vast experience. It's not like you're a newbie just out of college. You have a whole portfolio of experiences. So worst case scenario, you can always get another job. But when it comes to that opportunity, you might not be able to go back. Some things are just that moment, to leave in that moment, and it's going to be a certain result produced versus if you just stayed and, oh yeah, well, let me do it 5 years later. Your time was really then, not so much now. So yeah, that, to answer your question, I remember that. I'll never forget that. To me, that was the biggest laugh. If you wanted to send me off with a great gift, that was the biggest gift he could have. Not even my boss, just one of the executives in the office. It is still one of the most humorous moments in my life related to that.
So for me, my work, people who I worked with were really supportive of me when I was telling them about my transition during maternity leave. I'd always kind of been the de facto mindset person, and in my leadership roles would do a lot of that work in my organization. So they're like, of course, that's a natural thing for you. It's what you do. So that was really nice. But it was actually my family, my sister, who is incredibly proud of me. She's a nurse, has been for like 30 years at this point, and was proud of me being, first woman, female physician in our family to go do it and put myself through all that. And so it was kind of this badge of honor when I told her that I was thinking about leaving and I wanted to go do this other thing. Her response was, well, it seems like just kind of a waste of everything you've been through. And it was like, wrench in my heart. And that's where I felt like, that background kind of guilt I'd been experiencing. Am I making the right choice? Hemming and hawing, just kind of amplify. And then, I went and just sat with myself and said, that's because that's where she's at. That's her perspective. That's her life experience. She's, several years older than me, and she lived her experience in a very different world. She stayed home with her kids, and then she went to nursing school, and, it was a very different world for her. And she's just a different person than me. And I just have to let her have that experience for her. This is mine, and it's my decision, and I feel good about it. So you're either there or you're not, and that's okay. You do you, I'll do me.
I had a little bit of a different perspective, not necessarily someone that said it to my face. And for the most part, people at work were happy for me. Some wanted to come. They're like, when you can hire people, I want to come work for you, that kind of thing, because they were excited. But I had more was once I was on my own, and really, I had been building brief transitions a little bit on the side. But when I left and I was working on it full time, I had some friends say, like, if I had talked to them during the day, they would say, like, so you're just home now, right? They thought that I didn't do anything all day or something. I say, I'm home, but I take calls and I'm running my company and I'm figuring out inventory and I'm dealing with fulfillment issues and all kinds of stuff. I have plenty of things to work through. So that was kind of a thing for me that I was like, okay, well, I guess people that aren't doing what you're doing are not going to understand, and they're not going to see it. So they either won't get it and they'll kind of stay where they are, or they aspire to that. So they'll ask you questions that will help them to get a little further as well. People that ask the questions in that kind of way, they really just don't understand, and they're in a totally different space. That's fine. Everyone's on their own path. But then I had to kind of tell myself, okay, well, I have these friends that I have relationships with for XYZ. And then that's why I went out and I had to find friends that were business owners. That was like all part of why I even created the Transitions Collective, because I was like, I need to talk to other moms that have businesses that get it, that are trying to do what I'm trying to do, because other people don't understand that, you know, and they don't understand if my kid wakes up in the middle of the night and I had a big meeting or something I was really working hard to do, again, for my own business, different than like, you know, when I was in corporate. And it's just all part of like, you know, when you think you're crazy for trying to do it and when you're celebrating and all the different things. But I found that that was most impactful for me, recognizing that some people just in a different space and weren't going to get it, even if they didn't say anything so strongly, saying like something bad or mean or whatever, that it's still just, they just didn't get it. And so I kind of had to work through that, because they're not as used to it when it's not what's, you know, considered normal in a way.
Mary, I can totally relate to that too. I think, was it Andrea, was it you that was saying that your family understands pensions and retirement and, you know, doesn't understand entrepreneurs? That's my family. My family are all educators, and they all, you know, when I left my last corporate job, my dad could barely talk to me. And I remember, you know, I've been blessed in my entrepreneurial career. I've had some really amazing opportunities. I've done a lot of speaking in some really great places. And I remember my dad was talking one day about his next door neighbor in Florida. And I had just never met the guy for whatever reason. I was just never there at the same time. And I said, well, what does he do? He goes, oh, he's a business consultant. I think he speaks all over the place. I go, oh, that's funny. I wonder if we've ever talked at the same place. And he literally started laughing and was like, come on. Like he's a real business person, Karen, and you're just, you know, like, I don't know what he thought I was doing, but I was just like, holy crap. Like, but the reality is he just had no sense. He has no concept. First of all, you know, I don't know, somehow if a guy's a consultant, it's a real job. If a woman's a consultant, maybe it's not, I don't know, but also just no concept whatsoever on, you know, not having a paycheck and a pension and, you know, and full benefits. I mean, benefits is an issue, you know, and, you know, so it's my family and they love me and they want me to, you know, they want the best for me. But even like, you know, like Mary was saying, even some of my friends, same kind of thing, like we'll go out to dinner. And I remember one of my friends dropping me off after dinner. She said, so are you going to go in and like work now? I was like, well, I don't know, maybe I'll check some email, you know, like I might check an email or two. I might spend a half hour on my computer before I go to bed, but like, they just don't get it. So it's so important that you put the people that did kick you in the butt a little bit in, you know, in its own little, you know, wrap them in love and sit them over here, and then find the people that understand and are ready to lift you up and want to lift you up. And those are the people, you know, when something happens, like your email list hits some number, like nobody else is going to understand. Call your entrepreneur friend and tell them that you had a 35% open rate. You know what I mean? On that last email, because no one else is going to care, you know?
This is so helpful for me. I know I'm on the panel, but I'm also a new business owner. And my punch in the face, Steffi, was when at the beginning of the pandemic, my sister-in-law sent me a text telling me, good luck with your fake job. And it shook me. It shook my confidence. And to hear, Karen, your story, that it was like a family member, because I was like, oh, I mean, this is my sister-in-law. What am I going to do with this? And it's taken me a while to figure out, I got to wrap her in this bubble and put her over there and find friends, find other people who are doing this to get back into my groove. And I think we talked about like pacing partners or just having that. And I'm so new to this. So this is like amazing insight for me too. BTW, I just signed my first client. It's a really big deal and a job is not fake.
Bless and release. That's all I can say. Just bless and release them, because they are everywhere. They will be on the internet and they're trolls, and whether they're related or not, they're there. And all you can do is bless and release. Just smile and let them go.
And like Mary said, they just don't understand. Like, because part of me was like, should I tell this story? Because this is going to live on YouTube. And then I realized this woman could care less. She will never be watching something like this. So it's really nice to understand I can bucket people.
I think it's a good reminder to think of the perspective of why are they saying that? Because it's really not about you. You know, what part of your sister-in-law is thinking, gosh, I wish I could do this. I wish that I could launch my own business. That, you know, that's how I now look at it. I know that there's books about it, but to really think of, it's not really me, you know, that she's lashing out at. There's something going on with her that she does not like. And apparently she feels comfortable enough to just let you know how she feels, but it's really about her. And I think this was the most perfect segue into one of the other topics we wanted to cover on women supporting women. And how do we find this group of women? I am so thrilled to be on this panel with you all, because I'm like, oh, I'm going to email you afterwards and we're all going to be best friends. And this is not the end of this panel for us, according to me, but you can think otherwise if you want. But you know, how do we go about finding these people? I know that for me, early on, I had joined a Facebook group that was a paid membership, and I was one of the old ones. I'm about to hit 40 in a couple of months, and that was old for this group. Everyone is a 20-year-old life coach, and we were worlds apart. So there were a couple of women that I gravitated towards. I left the group, I saved my money, and we're now great friends that email every single day throughout the day. You know, we text, we pick up the phone, and it is things like, oh my gosh, I just signed this client. Oh my gosh, it was a 6-month deal. You know, oh yes, my open rate was 17%. Oh, that's phenomenal, because it's way better than the average. You know, to be able to share these things, and at the same time to go, holy cow, nobody slept last night. I'm so exhausted, yet I have all of this stuff to do. And by the way, I have my Instagram content to create for all of next month, and I'm so far behind. And to be able to say, yeah, I get that. I get it. And you're not alone. You're not going bananas. That's normal. And to find those people. So I found mine in a Facebook group years ago. That's my business bestie, as I call her. We've gotten to meet in person too. So it's not just some random online thing, because those can happen. But how have you all found these women that you support that, talk the talk, but actually walk the walk? Because it is a Instagram hashtag, but it needs to be more, and we need to support as much as we need to be supported.
Well, I'll say for me, at first, I was part of a national organization that was for professional women. So they had local chapters. So that was great, because it let me be around people that were right around me. And I had started my company while I was still working. So it let me be with people that already had a business. Some of them were like myself, and they worked their business mainly like a side hustle or whatever, and then they had their main job, but they were looking into expanding. And during that same time, before I left my corporate job, I found a global organization that had over 550,000 women. So that way, it would give me exactly what I would think is one of the best pieces of advice for someone that's looking to be an entrepreneur or already is. Find people that are where you are and where you aspire to be, and the different levels of success you want. Because someone that's just where you are, it's nothing wrong with them, but it's like the buckets we talked about earlier. You can't tell me how to be a multi-million-dollar success. We're both trying to get there. But then if, we're looking at, you get past a certain point, you're like, whoa, okay, now we need to talk about this, or we need to talk about this, or, I didn't need that system before, but I want to know, when you scale it up to here, how do I get here? You already have those people down the pipeline. And if you're in organizations like that, you can sort of hear certain things that may not mean anything to you at this point, but then as you're growing, you're like, wait a minute, so-and-so was talking about that. And then by this time, I've made relationships with these people where they're also helping me grow and then scale, because growth and scale is completely different. Then as you're going through, you're really defining who you are, your expertise, what your business really offers. You've adjusted, you've pivoted. Now we can talk about coaching. And I say that with very, with caution, because I say coaches are like therapists. They may be highly qualified, but they may not be the one for you. So we're not knocking their credentials. Some of them are just crackpots because we got everybody that can call themselves whatever, that I paid for this course, and they're just not good. They just found a way to make a buck. And unfortunately, you invest, it might be a tax write-off because that's not the person for you. But you look at what your business really needs, and you find that person who is speaking your language, who has proven results. And then you will get that person. And I look at Oprah Winfrey. One thing she said years ago, she has coaches. And I said, coaches? And I was like, okay, that's Oprah. But later on, I realized what she meant. Not one business coach is good for everything. So I may just need a coach right now for this. But as my business grows and scales, maybe that's not the coach for me anymore, or maybe I need a different coach. So those are some of the ways, I found the people that I need support. But I'll say this last thing. Please do not get in women groups that say they're supporting women, and all you do is go have lunch and cocktails. That's called friendship. And I'm not saying in your business, you don't need times where you need to relax, you need a cocktail, maybe you discuss a little business, but there's so many groups where all you're doing is just having a lunch and using this as an excuse to get away from whatever. You're not going to learn anything. You're not growing. There's no connections being made, no referrals. It's just a bunch of women. They're getting together, calling this business, and we're having lunch and cocktails. You have friends for that, or if today you just want to have lunch and cocktails, by all means. But if you're looking to grow your business, that's a total different things. And I found so many times that people will say, oh, this is a group supporting women. These are a bunch of business owners. And if you really look at it, no, they might have businesses, but this is lunch and cocktails. Okay, cool. If I want lunch and cocktails today and that's all I want, I'll come and have lunch with you. But if I'm talking about growing my business, I don't want to just have lunch and cocktails. So you got to make sure you're really looking to see what it is, what they offer. Is this what you need? And is there someone that we're not all the same? Is there someone at the different levels I want to go to? Is there someone that's already been there and done that I can look at? You need a mixture of those type people to support you.
Totally. And when I first opened this business, I said, okay, I'm opening an HR consulting business. I thought that's what I was doing. And I had a girlfriend who does marketing consulting, and thankfully she doesn't view other women entrepreneurs as competition. And she said, no, you're not opening an HR consulting business, Andrea. You are now in the business of sales. You must sell yourself. And I did not know that. I did not, I'm so green and so new to this. So thankfully that was the best advice and tip I got. She recommended a business course that she had taken. She being in marketing, she took it at a different level. She already sort of understood sales, but that was a huge help for me to sort of lay the foundation of what I'm doing so that I can sell myself confidently in order to get that work. And also to view, there is no vertical, there is no channel that is so saturated that we are one another's competition. We're just not. And I think when you change your mindset and you realize maybe pitch together, raise each other up, because all boats rise with the tide. So I think when you're able to have that mind shift and really view the world in that way, good things will come.
I think for me, I found a lot of support by going and taking seminars and workshops pre-COVID, where I was meeting a lot of women who had similar interests as me. They were also entrepreneurs trying to learn and invest in themselves. And so you just find you gravitate towards the people that are your vibe, right? And you create those connections. And a lot of those workshop seminars also had Facebook groups. So I too have some Facebook people that I really connect with and are, have been friends for years now, that we reach out and check in. And I find that those people are extremely helpful, but I definitely agree with Alicia, and you got to find people that have done what you're doing. If it's been done before, to go and ask questions for mentorship, guidance sometimes if you don't know the answer. And I would say the key thing about that is being cognizant of your time and their time. So I remember this amazing woman, she had started this business. At the time I was thinking of opening my own clinics and she'd started this chain of urgent cares extremely successful in being bought out by a huge corporation in Colorado. So I asked if she was willing to give me half an hour to discuss some specific business questions. And I gave her my top 3 questions. And we ended up spending almost 2 hours and she went through everything. But that was a huge amount of time from her. And she didn't have to do that. But she said, what I appreciated is that you had 3 top questions. And as long as those questions kept being very specific, not just you trying to pick my brain, I was willing to stay here. And so it's really about the value that they're able to give you when you're clear in your focus and you're also able to receive from them.
For me as a community leader, because I lead a group of women that have their own businesses and it's at different levels and everything. And I created it because I was looking for that support I mentioned before, but I also need my own support too, right? So it works in a few ways. Like I'm building this support structure for women, but I'm also looking into other groups to kind of build my support network. And I think one of the important things with community, and you kind of touched on it a little bit, Nicole, with the giving, like it's the give and take aspect, and really first finding people, like Alicia said, like finding people that really fit with you and that you feel good connecting with, right? That you can connect on that deeper level, but then really having that give and take balance of like, you're not just joining a group to go, ask 100 questions and never offer anything in return, right? It's really about like, how can we all support each other? And like, even to Andrea's example with like the recommendation of the course from your friend, like how can we all support each other and share so that we are really building the connections, building the relationships, and, hey, I found something that worked really great for me. It may or may not work for you, but you might want to look into it. And then on the other side, like, people will be more willing to then refer you to other people. Like afterwards, Andrea, I'm going to ask you like, okay, you're building an HR consultancy. Sometimes I do work that with leadership teams and like maybe something will come up. So I'm going to ask you after like, hey, I want to know more about what you do. So in case something comes up, I can send them your way, that kind of thing. Like, and really, really building that and sharing. And these panels are great because then you meet more people that way. And Michelle, yeah, you said we're all going to be friends after. I fully agree. Because really it's about the connecting, but truly really supporting each other and not just always taking kind of thing. And I think, the larger like free kind of Facebook groups are a little more, you have to really dig in there to find some gems kind of thing. But when you find your people, it really helps your business exponentially.
Yeah. And I would like to say too, that, we have to also, as much as like, there's just so many Facebook groups, right? So we started out a couple of questions ago saying, find your, find your entrepreneurial friends, make sure that they're the ones that support you. But keep in mind that within that group, there's people with all mindsets, right? So if you have a mindset where you're going to have a 6-figure month, right? You need to know that there's nobody in your circle that's going to say, forget, that is never going to happen. You want them all to say, I got your back. How can I help? Right. And it's interesting because I've got a few of the other type of people in my world and I love them, but they're not the people that I go to because I know they just don't think big enough, right? Even for themselves. So there's a lot of people that when you're in a community and there are people in that community that don't think big enough for themselves, make sure that they're not dragging you down with them, right? Like you've got to really find the people that want to, like, they're like, all right, like I had one friend early on in my entrepreneurial career, where every now and then, you just get, you just get in your head and you just have a day. And we would challenge each other, like, how can we make $1,000 today? And we did it almost every time. Do you know what I mean? Like she'd say, all right, Karen, today, this is the day, make $1,000 today. I'm like, all right, let me see you figure it out. Right. Those are the kind of people you want to find as well. Right. Because there's lots of communities, like even, my podcast is for women. My LinkedIn program is called She's Linked Up. I mean, it's, I support women, but we're picky. We want people that think bigger. I would rather have somebody that is broke but thinks big than somebody that can write a big fat, swipe a credit card for a big fat number, but is just going to, complain the whole time and give me all these reasons why it's never going to work, right? So to me, the mindset of the people in the community is almost more important than almost anything.
My experience resonates fully with what Mary and Karen said. I have some really good experience with groups with, let's say, female entrepreneurs in the same situation. But I see also that in those groups, if they're not really well selected, you see people who really share contact, clients, ideas, opportunities, and there are people who just sit and wait for those to come and steal. And recently I was going absolutely mad in one of those groups because I was sharing one of the initiatives we're doing in a way that I want to engage them and invite them to participate because I think it's beneficial for everyone. And 2 minutes later, two of them wrote to me like, oh, that's a great idea. We're going to copy it, like literally copy it. And they literally copied it. So to me, what Mary said is it's really important to be very selective with who you talk and who you share and who you trust, because there are so many people out there who just sit and wait. And I don't know. I think supporting women is a really great thing if you actually do it genuinely without asking for something to happen specifically. We just recently started because we started talking about different stories, and there were stories about mothers who started their businesses during motherhood. I was inspired by my own story, so I was looking for other women who did the same, and apparently there were so many, and the businesses that they were doing were passionate, were real, authentic businesses because they've done it out of pure interest, love, and they saw a gap in the market. So we started telling those stories, and I saw that a lot of people were interested in that column on the website. So in April, we launched a live session where every week, every Wednesday, 12 o'clock, we have a different woman presenting her business. It's like an elevator pitch. And we ask her, the final question is, how can we help you? And the whole idea is to really promote a community of women where we help each other. So when you ask someone, how can we help you? What do you need? It could be like my Instagram page, or it could be, please check my website and online store. I have amazing things for newborn babies. And I saw this as a type of media training for a lot of women we work with. And after that, they called me and said that it was really beneficial for them because they realized what they actually really need from people to do to them. Because, you have your Instagram page and you do things and you have a promotion, you have this new product and you have that. But when someone asks you, what do you need? How can I support you? A lot of people apparently stumble. So right now, and I'm open after that to discuss this on the email, we're looking really into ideas how to help even more those women and how to give them the tools, be it a partnership with someone, be it a connection to someone, to help them grow and really develop further. But as I said, groups for me rarely work. And maybe I've been in the wrong groups, but I think that more and more people maybe are shifting away from that experience and moving somewhere else. I still haven't found that somewhere else. So if you have any ideas, it will be really interesting. But for me, I had mixed experience with groups of entrepreneur female ladies.
I would like to segue off of that, and I'm sorry, Steffi, that you have not had positive experiences with the different groups that you've been a part of. I think it is very important to be careful and to be careful when you join a group, but also when you join the group to get in there and get a sense of who's in there, what their energy is about, what their intentions are. If you can kind of get that sense. I also run, in addition to being a coach, I have a community to support other coaches and therapists who work with families and kids and parents. And my community is fairly small. I think we have about 40 people in my community. And I've taken a few different business courses and things like that. And I know that there are other membership communities where, they have thousands of people and they're making gobs and gobs of money. And I have wrestled with that issue as the leader of this community. Do I want to have a bigger community that has more people, or do I not? And each time I ask that question, I always come back to having a big, huge community that's a little less intimate is just not what I'm about. And so with each of the people who come into my community, it's not an open community. And we have to, if anybody's interested in it, I schedule a time to meet them on Zoom usually and talk to them and find out, what they're doing in their business, how they could not only benefit from my community, but what they can bring to the community, because I want everybody to give and take. And I don't want anyone in there who has a lack-based mindset. I believe in abundance, and I want to make sure that the people who come into it also believe in that. And I have a fabulous group of people, a group of women. We share opportunities with each other. We cheer each other on. I get invited to a lot of parenting summits, and I always ask the hosts, do you need anybody else to be interviewed for your summit? Because I've got a lot of people I can introduce you to. So we always share media opportunities or any kind of things like that. So I think it really is important to find the people who, like a lot of you have already said, like Alicia said, find the people who are where you are and a little ahead of where you want to get to, and connect with them. Make sure that the community or the group of people you're connecting with share, an abundance-based mindset, and they're willing to give and take, help you and get help from you. I think those are some really important bullet points.
I love all of that. And I want us to run out of time. We can keep going, but I think another topic that we should really cover also, there's really two. And one, Andrea already kind of alluded to, with investing in yourself. And I think that these communities and groups are also part of that topic, and how you can invest in yourself, time and money, because both go hand in hand, whether it is a coach, as Alicia said, or it's a course. But investing in your business and treating it as a business is very important. And it's something that I think a lot of us struggle with starting up, because there is that stigma of like, oh, is it really a business? Are you really an entrepreneur? And I think in our own heads, we kind of question it too, of like, well, I'm not bringing in that kind of money. I can't spend that kind of money, but is it going to better me? And Alicia, I got to say that when you said to surround yourself with those people who are ahead of where you want to be, that rang very true, because I'm in the middle of making a decision of, do I want to invest a large chunk of money to go and hang out with some of these people? I'm like, I just wrote that down, so thank you. But how do you invest in yourself and get around that mindset? And then in addition to that, let's talk about self-care too, because that can be a part of this investment. And self-care is not bubble baths. It is truly taking care of yourself, your mind, your body. For me, this year with the pandemic, I started walking every single day with my kids. And I invested in Thistle meal delivery. So plant-based meals are getting delivered to my house. And let me tell you, they make a difference. It is an investment in myself, because I don't have to think about meal planning. I just dump it in the pan and I cook it, and it's healthy. So it makes me feel better. And simple things like that are a way to invest in yourself and your business, really, because now I'm freeing up time and space for myself. So let's discuss how you're all doing that for yourselves, investing in yourselves, taking care of yourselves, and prioritizing yourself and considering that your business is a business.
I like to kind of jump in and just take a tiny little bit of a step back, because when we were talking before about what was the kick in the butt, well, the other thing that came to mind was a conversation I had with my coach about a year and a half ago around my commitment to niching on women. And we had just, we had made that decision before this, but we had just run some kind of promotion where we were going to do 10 spots for something, right? Now, again, my podcast is called Good Girls Get Rich. My program is called She's Linked Up. And 8 of the 10 spots were filled by men, because men are more confident in investing in themselves than women are. And my coach was like, you know what you're doing here, right? By committing to this, you know what you're doing, right? You know that this is going to be a tougher path. But I was like, and I had to literally look at that look at it, and I said, I know, but I want to do it. Like, I feel like women really need somebody to really lift them up and so I want to take a bite out of that gender wage gap, right? So I'm saying that because, we can sit here and say that we're all investing in ourselves. And I have multiple coaches, and that wasn't easy to make it. That was an easy decision to make at all. And at the same time, women are just not as confident in making that investment in themselves as men are. It just is a thing, right? So how, you wouldn't expect, a professional sports player to get to that top level without a coach. Yet somehow women think that they don't need that, right? So I kind of just had to lay that on the table first, because that was literally the other thing I was going to say, was that was really like a kick in the butt for me. Like, am I leaving money on the table? Is this really the right decision for me, right? But for me, I definitely, this past year, I've invested the most I've ever invested in coaching. And it's also the best year we've ever had. I invested in a CFO in my business about, I don't know, maybe 2.5 years ago. And we doubled our revenues in like 6 months, so there's no doubt in my mind that smart investments in my business are necessary for its success. Personally, I agree. I need to do a better job at taking care of me. I definitely can for sure. But with the pandemic, I just haven't really, it's just been, I went back and forth with things like meal plans and things like that. And, oh my gosh, all kinds of crazy stuff. But 100%, if I am at my top, my business is at its top. There's no doubt about that. Right. So, it is important.
I think some of the best sort of self-care I did as I was embarking on this journey was to sit down with my husband and be like, this is real. This is happening. Even though I'm going to be at a desk in our bedroom, this is still a company, and just making sure that we had boundaries and respect, and kind of knowing where to invest money in the course. Also, I'm paying out the nose to have somebody else pick my kids up from school, so I don't have to stop my day. And really letting go of, and this was hard, there's a lot of laundry sitting, like I can see it and it hasn't been folded, and I'm not going to fold it, and we can pick clothes out of the laundry basket and we're not going to die. So figuring out, for having a come to Jesus with myself, like, if you're going to do this, you got to walk the walk, talk the talk, and stick to those boundaries. So that was like a really huge thing that helped me kind of get my head straight and be able to focus.
I would say when people are looking at what investments, my own example, is what is going to grease the wheel of your business. Business has to make profit, period. So when you're looking at the things that you really need to invest in, what is going to increase your profitability? Oftentimes, especially for a newer entrepreneur, it's not what you think. Like, you'll have different coaches that say, oh, you need this system because it's professional. And it does the auto email responder and the blah, 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 blah. And, people have this long list of, you got to buy this technology. You need this system. You need that. And I'll just look at people. Have you made a dime yet? Because I'm sure that $50,000 system is amazing. But the level your business is at now, it doesn't need the $50,000 technology, unless, of course, your business hinges on that. So a lot of times what they're investing in, or you're encouraged to invest in, sometimes you don't even need that. No one talks about, and I've had this, fortunately, most of my business coaches were all mothers. One in particular who runs a multi-million-dollar organization, her thing was laundry. I'm not doing laundry. Not that I'm too good to do laundry, but she's like, you know what? The time it takes to fold those clothes and wash those clothes, and this is when her children was younger, I need that for my business. So she hired a housekeeper. The housekeeper did laundry. And they didn't have money like that in the beginning, but she hired someone part-time. That is what she felt her business needed. Now, other people would say, oh my goodness, you think you're so good that you need someone for your laundry? If that is what you need as the entrepreneur, that's what's going to help your business, then take a deep breath and get over what anyone else thinks of you and go hire the person if it's only a few hours a week. Housekeeper. Other things I look at is the fact that, mind, body, and spirit. So I avoided it for years and, sort of played with it. But this year it was like, nope, this plan is what's going to work best for your body. You've done it before, but you need someone that's going to customize it for you and give you what you really need. I hired a meal plan coach to go through the logistics and the accountability and craft something for me. On the other hand, 3 months after that, I hired my fitness coach. So she gives me my prompts of my in-home workouts. And if I take that to the gym, she has my out-home workouts. And, again, other people might think that's extravagant, but if I'm the CEO, and it's more important now as the CEO versus you work for someone else. If I'm not good, if I'm not healthy, that puts the clients we serve at peril, the people that we hire to do work, that puts their financial at peril. And then it puts at peril the longevity of our business and the growth and scalability. We're not here playing. This is really serious, and you want to grow and scale the business because you said you love it. So for me, my health, and if you look at most millionaires and billionaires and highly successful people, one of the first things they do in the morning is they go work out. Now, I guarantee you there's other things they could do at their time, and they can make the business be an excuse. We need more hours here, but they know in order to do what they need to do, their mind, their body, their spirit, it has to be the priority. It's more important than the business itself because it greases the wheels of the business. So health, fitness, and like I said, whatever really in your business, what you're doing right now is going to make the difference between profitability. One last coach I can't do without, and that was the investment. And we invested more money in her this year than ever. But I will tell you, that is a woman, I can put money in her hand, 30 days, I can get all of it back, or I can double and triple it. So it's like at this point, wherever you ask for, if it makes sense right now, here you go, because I know we're going to double and triple it within 30 days or less. She is one that I invested in and continue to, because she is about you disrupting your industry. So like someone said earlier, they want $1,000 day. Okay, well, she'll do a $5,000 weekend, $10,000 weekend. I'm going to invest in her because that's a smart investment and it's not fluff. It's proven. I've tested her, so I continue to invest in her. But really, there's no right or wrong. It's whatever is going to grease the wheel in your business that's needed and allows you to have more of an operating budget to continue to invest higher. Maybe now you can get up to the point where you're at business for that $50,000 system if you need it. And I'll say this last thing, a VA, please. If you can't afford to have staff on hand, if it's nothing more than 3 hours a week of an administrative virtual assistant, because the majority of your business as a new entrepreneur is heavily administrative. And it seems like you're saving money because I'm doing it myself. I don't have to pay anyone if I do it. You are the highest generating person in your company. How much is your hour worth? So what you think you're saving, you are not. You might be costing the business a $5,000, $10,000, $15,000, $20,000 contract because you don't want to pay this person over here. And VAs now, depending, you might get one that's out of the country. They might cost you $3 or $5 an hour. And you're telling me for $3 or $5 an hour, maybe only a few days a week, you're going to risk a $5,000, $10,000, $20,000, $15,000 contract? when you look at it that way, it doesn't make sense. One of the first people, get a VA, somebody just to do the email, answer stuff. As time goes on, you get one to do research and contracts and all of that stuff, research, but just get a VA in the beginning, a couple hours a week, if that's all you can get, to do the administrative part of the business, which in the beginning is all of, it seems like all of it. I guarantee you it's one investment you will never regret.
Especially if you have a podcast too.
Alicia, you're absolutely amazing. You have generated a huge fan in Bulgaria, and I might spam you with emails from now to the end of the world. Yeah, but honestly, so for me, the best investment in my company was the investment in the nanny. 4 days a week, because my boy is still very young for public kindergarten. 4 days a week, I have for 8 hours a day a peace of mind, because I know she's amazing. I know she takes care of him, and I don't have to think about him. My husband every night during the day and says, "Have you checked on Alex?" And I'm like, "Baby, it's my 8 hours of full focus. I get it only 4 times a week. Don't call me. I need to work. Alex is fine. Don't worry." So to me, that's the best investment. And the best investment in me for my well-being and healthcare after the nanny is investing in fitness coach. I am one of those cheaters who say, "Yeah, I went to the gym, but I actually went to the gym to listen to some podcasts and I did some work instead of actually working out." And I realized that I'm dragging kilos after the birth. I mean, don't look at me. From up here, I'm always thin. From down there. So hiring a fitness coach was the best thing ever. He kicks my butt 3 times a week. And for the first time in my life, I actually feel results. I mean, I'm not lying to myself. I'm not cheating. There is someone who comes during COVID and he's doing tests and everything, taking precautions. But I'm actually exercising and I'm seeing finally results, which is amazing. And I feel happy. I feel energetic. And I know fitness coach sounds like a luxury, but it's not. It's just a human being who comes, saves you time, comes to your home. You wash, you clean yourself in your own bathroom and you go to work. And it's amazing. It's the best decision ever. And I don't know why I was putting it out for so long. So that's my 2 takes on the
So I have a little bit of a different perspective, but I agree with all of you on the fitness part, because I also have a trainer that I see weekly, and it's really not only for the body, but really for my mind. Like Alicia was saying before, like I need it mentally to get to just remove all of that stress and all of that, like everything that's in my head, like it needs to come out. And the way that I get it out is through exercise, but I won't do it on my own. So that's what I do. And I also have childcare for after hours of school, which is a big thing to make a fuller work day. But from the perspective, I've seen 2 things. Like one is people will always want you to invest in all of the things. So it's really easy when you're starting out, I think, to also spend a lot of money that you might not have. And then you end up not paying yourself because you're paying all these other people. So it's really a really like delicate balance between, paying for some, because you also do want to invest in yourself and in your company, and you're not going to grow without investing in some of those things, like without investing in some type of coaching or other services, depending on your business. So just kind of, I would just say personally, it's not one size fits all, but think about both of those sides. And maybe if you do have a friend or someone in your network that can challenge you or talk through it with you in some way, to make sure that you're not spending all your money, but you're also not holding on to all of it so that you're not growing. So it's kind of like a middle ground. But the other part with my e-commerce business, so I will say for like running brief transitions, I've found that it's helpful to hire people for a certain number of hours for a specific thing. So a lot of people might say like, oh, well, you need to hire full-time, you need to hire a full-time operations person. But you might not, like most of the time you don't need to hire full-time, especially when you're first starting out. That's just don't do that. Because you can hire someone that has a very specific skill set that you don't have, that you need to like implement somehow to see like traction for something in your business. So in the e-commerce world, for me, I eventually like invested in a fulfillment center because it wasn't worth it for me to be packing and shipping all the products myself after I grew to a certain point, and then like you invest in someone to help with, like the e-commerce, like your customer experience and user experience, like for the purchase, the process of purchasing online, or maybe ads, very specific, very targeted product style ads, all of those things. I think like just really think about what you really need, or what, and try to, work through it from the perspective of like, okay, is there an expert in an area where I can, get a few hours of help here and then a few hours of help here on something else, and kind of seems like patchwork, but it really will take you a lot farther with your progress because you'll get very targeted in what you actually need. And, this is a whole other thing, but don't be afraid to interview them and ask for referrals and get references, especially if you're hiring someone for a big amount of money. Don't just trust what you see online, because lots of people out there, they have clauses where you're not even allowed to speak negatively about them online. So use referrals and use your network as much as you can.
Mary, I'd also add on there to trust your gut, because that's, you most of the time get that little like, I don't know if this is right, but everything on their website, like it feels right, and all these people love them. Right? And every time when you don't do it, you're like, oh, I wish I hadn't. The thing for me, I am one of those people who loves to learn. I love to have my mind engaged. But I also know as an entrepreneur, we tend to get course happy, and we do every course under the sun and actually never implement it. And so I always caution people, don't get so sucked up on all the courses that you're not actually working your business, but do allow yourself to constantly learn. And it doesn't have to be about business. I mean, if suddenly you feel like you want to go learn dancing, then go do something like that where, you're totally distracted from everything else. You're having fun, you're moving your body. Then, all of a sudden you're inspired with a new business idea when you get home. Those are the things where I feel like you're really getting self-care, and then you're also investing in yourself.
We have a question from Erica. She's asking if we have any suggestions on where we can find these people to hire to help us. I think that my suggestion would be different Facebook groups. There's a lot of virtual assistant Facebook groups, talking to other people, simply, finding out who do you use? How did you find them? Because oftentimes, especially with the VA, you're going to have people who are doing part-time stuff who can take on more clients. So if somebody really loves who they're working with, ask them, find out who they are. Can you use them? Can I have 5 hours a month too? That would be my biggest suggestion. I see Upwork, Nextdoor is coming up, care.com is coming up. I think network with your friends and everybody else, and simply ask. We've got so many different social media platforms. Put it out there, and you're going to get responses.
To me, what worked best in hiring authors for the media is just simply, I never thought it would work, but writing it on Facebook. I just said, hey guys, I need good copywriters who are mothers and want to talk about it. And I got so many replies and messages, and I found amazing women who totally resonate with what I was feeling, and they were so eager and wanting to do this. But I also recently came across groups of mothers who are on maternity leave or stay-home moms who are willing to find something like a part-time job. For example, if you have a e-commerce website and need someone to type all the description of the articles, small things that you can outsource to someone. So this is something I'm now testing, and I'm looking more into it because I think if we help each other, it's the best thing we can do. So that would be my one thing to say. Groups of moms who are stay-home moms and need some part-time job.
I'll also just add this part. I see people put Upwork. I even see people put Fiverr. Upwork is my preferred. The only disclaimer I want to say, because it depends on your business, what you need, and things like that, is take some time to understand the legalities of things, because we do have a problem where people will hire someone by a certain classification and you're saying they're a subcontractor, but legally, the way you're working them, they're not a subcontractor. And people are trying to do this and this because they don't want to pay taxes this way. So before you go and start hiring everyone, this is where a attorney, and that's one of the things you need to have, whether you personally have one on retainer or however you have those services for your business. This is where you need to sit down and speak to someone before you start hiring. I'll say some of those places like Upwork and places like that, they take care of that part for you. So you're just hiring the person. You don't have all the legalities. I don't have to do all of this about health insurance or that. They take care of that. But when you start hiring people personally, even if it's on part-time basis, that's a very sticky thing, because you might put them under one category, but according to the law, as well as the rules in your state, they may not be under that category. And there's no more expensive way to learn the difference than to be fined, have to pay them back pay, have to pay overtime pay because you had them under the wrong classification. And this is an expensive lesson.
Listen to, yes. The HR consultant and lawyer, I am here to tell you she is right. Don't misclassify.
Yeah. We think, well, it was just part-time. So make sure you know that. Make sure you consult people first before you start hiring.
Thank you for schooling all of us. I love it. Any closing thoughts? We're 15 minutes over what we were scheduled to, but anything that anybody wants to wrap up with, feel free.
People to just define what is your version of success, because in this space, even in social media, no matter what space you look at, there's a lot of confusion. And sometimes people are, you look up to a person. There's nothing wrong with looking up to people and having mentors and coaches and all those things. But what is your definition of success? Because someone could be coaching you according to theirs. If you don't want a multi-million-dollar business, then I don't need to coach you that way. You really have to look at your level of comfortability. What is your overall vision? What things do you want to do? Do you not want to do? Take all of those things in consideration. And for a lot of us, especially women, we have to redefine and unlearn what people told us. So that's success to that person. Even when you talk about moms being entrepreneurs, well, what someone else says a mom and entrepreneur should be and what you're comfortable being, two different things. And neither one of you are necessarily wrong. So if you don't know what your definition of success is, you're going to have a lot of noise. And this person told me to do this. This person do this. Matter of fact, one of the reasons that coach I mentioned earlier, I hired her because one of the things I learned when I first met her, so I followed her for years just to make sure she's authentic. She only works 4 hours a day in peak season, 3 hours a day in off season. She is not working weekends because she said, you know what? My family's a priority. I love my husband and I'm going to have time with my children. And she homeschooled. And I looked at her and go, well, how are you making 6 or 7 figures? Everybody tells me I had to hustle and grind and hustle and grind. She wasn't going to do it. So what's your definition of success? Get the people to show you how to have that and devise a plan and do just that. And don't let anyone tell you you're wrong or that's stupid or that's not right. I do this. That's good for them. That's not you. That's all I have to say about that.
And what I would say is think big enough. Think big enough. It doesn't have, and thinking big enough doesn't mean working 1 million hours. thinking like one of the exercises that I give almost everybody that I work with is whatever you're thinking that you're going to charge for something, just double it in your head. And what else can you do for all that extra money? Like, don't just charge more money, right? But like, if you're charging $500, what if it was $1,000? What else could you provide? Like, women are, I find often that women are afraid to go for the bigger opportunities, but what you're doing is you're not giving all that you are giving to, that you could. And think about if you are really looking to, to have a lifestyle that is around your business, right? Or a business that's around your lifestyle, then you can do less with less people if you can dive deeper into bigger opportunities, right? So don't be afraid of the bigger opportunities and just kind of dream big and think about some really amazing opportunities. And then, I don't know, I think putting that energy out there starts to attract that to you.
I would say, in the spirit of how we talked about community before, like really, really find your people, like for, find your support structure, whether it's the people that you're, looking up to or potentially working with, or however you're going to invest, but also find those people that really support you every day of the week that you can text and you can say like, oh my God, whatever just happened, I sent the wrong email out, right? Or like whatever thing happened in your business. And like, they will say, oh my gosh, like, you will get through this, whatever it is. Like they celebrate with you and they're also there for you for the challenges, because like really entrepreneurship has so many ups and downs, and having the right people in your corner for all of it, not just for the shiny times, right? Everyone's going to say, oh, you're doing, wow, that's so impressive. But who are the people that are there with you when things are not so shiny, and making sure you have them, because that will help you continue. It's the long game. So it'll help you continue.
I can
I was
only
just
say
gonna.
that. Oh, sorry, Nico.
Go ahead, Sophie.
I'm going to be super short. I'm just going to say that it was an incredible privilege and opportunity to get to meet so many amazing women and to stay up until 3 a.m. talking to you. And I didn't realize it's 3 a.m. I'm like so excited, and I heard so many great things. I have so many takeouts. And once again, I confirmed to myself that talking to other women is amazing, and it's so caring and lifting, and we should do it more. Unfortunately, COVID prevented us, but I hope we have another summit very soon and we get to meet again. Otherwise, I rely on our email exchange. So it was really amazing to meet you all, and thank you so much for this great conversation.
I was just going to say, trust yourself. Being an entrepreneur is a journey, and you're not going to know all the answers ahead of time. You're just going to take one step at a time, the next step. And there's going to be times where you have some missteps, but it's never a fail, because that's an opportunity for you to learn and do it better the next time, and the same thing. So it's just a journey, and you really have to embrace that and enjoy it while you're there, because there's never an end goal, really, because once you get there, there's something new that you want. So just keep doing it and find that guidance within, and let that be the main thing that's just leading you forward, and keep doing what you're passionate about.
And I would just add, well, first of all, I did enjoy getting to know all of you and hearing your stories. It was really wonderful. And it's always nice to connect to other amazing women and moms. And I think one thing that I would leave for our viewers who are joining us is to believe in yourself, believe that you're worth it, take care of yourself, reach out for help when you need it, build your community, and follow your dreams and your passions, and make the world a better place as you do it.
I think my final thought would be to not be afraid to put yourself out there. When you see something like this summit, apply to be a speaker, because you know a lot more than you think you know. You're going to be able to surround yourself with other people who know even more than you know, and you're going to walk away with so many takeaways and new friends and new ideas. So put yourself out there. Just do it. Thank you all, ladies, from the bottom of my heart. This was the most fun. I don't know how we were worried about an hour and a half, and here we've gone almost 2 hours. We're just chatty Cathy's. So I thank you all, and thank you to all of our viewers. Love you too, Mary. And I look forward to continuing our conversations offline together. And anybody else who's watching, all of our bios and our links will be below this video. Feel free to reach out to any of us, follow us. We want to hear from you all. So thank you all. Have a wonderful rest of the evening, and good morning to you, Steffi.